Another night where I try to flee these pain-filled eyes. A red man stands by my side. He says, son, don't you know I can make you fly? Lean a little closer and I'll tell you a secret. Let us make a deal, now you can take it.
Welcome back to another episode of BSing Sports. For those of you that are listening on Spotify, because yes, I finally got done being lazy for over a year and started re-uploading our episodes to Spotify, that music is by Orphan Rivers, courtesy of Bill. Thank you, Bill.
It's actually courtesy of my wife's cousin, Scotto. But yeah, still Orphan Rivers. Check him out on Spotify since you're already on here.
Yeah, and then obviously check us out too. And there's somebody else you can check out on Spotify too. We have Jake Biasato from Talking 215 here. How you doing, man? It's been a while.
Oh, it is always a pleasure to be on with you, gentlemen. I appreciate you having me, and I apologize for a little bit of a scratchy voice today.
Oh, well, you know, it adds special effect because we are talking about the Phillies who are coming in a little scratchy. So it's pretty fitting at the moment. You know, another horrid loss today. They just finished, you know, a 10-9 disaster. Really? I know they played bad, Doc. They just finished a 10-9 disaster loss to the Mets today. It's unbelievable. Mets win 3 out of 4 over the weekend. Not exactly how we want to look at it as Phillies fans. Tim, why don't we start with you? Go ahead and give us your take on where the Phillies are going from here.
I think that Bryce Harper will be coming back sometime soon, and they really need him right now. They're struggling. Everyone's so cold. They need help. They need a fire in our lineup right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with you. Jake, being the guest, I'll save the best for last. And Bill, why don't you give us your opinion on where do the Phillies go from here?
Listen, they're in a bit of a rough patch right now. Fortunately, they're playing the Reds here in a 4-game set coming up. But for whatever reason, this little ticker right here, something we could talk about. Phils have only beaten the Mets 5 times this season, which is going to be a problem walking into the postseason, considering that might be a team you need to be playing. As I pointed out to you guys separately, is the Phils hold the tiebreaker with every other NL playoff team right now. However, it's a big deal that they just cannot keep up with the Mets when they're playing the Mets. So obviously the addition of Bryce Harper, who's supposed to start his minor league rehab here either Tuesday or Wednesday this week, is going to be huge. So we're looking forward to seeing Bryce back on the field. But overall, it's a problem that they just cannot beat a division rival this season. It's just a big deal.
Yeah, it's actually criminally embarrassing how much real estate, you know, the Mets own inside of the Phillies' heads at this point. Jake, why don't you go ahead and give us your take on where do the Phillies go from here?
It's tough. I mean, you go into a 4-game homestand where you're not going to be facing their top pitchers. You're facing the guys that really rarely even start at all at a major league level, and you're missing DeGrom and Scherzer. And if you told me that we're going to have Wheeler, we're going to have Nola, and we're going to have Gibson pitching, I'd have figured based on their last number of starts, like, all right, there's 3 or 4 right there. Who would have thought that Bailey Falter would come in and outpitch all of them and it's not even close. I mean, Gibson had no command whatsoever today. Same with Nola, same with Wheeler. It just seemed command was completely lost of our supposed top 3 pitchers, even though I've been saying it all year long, I'd have Ranger as the 3rd pitcher without a doubt. But you go into a game where you get some run support early on and then just slowly let the Mets crawl back into it every time, take a late lead. And we'll touch on why that late lead here in a minute, I'm sure. But you guys touched on it perfectly. Bryce Harper can't come back soon enough. He just revitalizes this team. It's going to be able to have a really consistent power bat in that early middle part of the lineup. I'll be curious to see what everything does, what kind of shakes around and see where people get moved in the batting order. But it can't come soon enough.
Yeah, I agree. The consistency that comes with the lineup of Bryce Harper being in it versus out of it is crucial. I mean, to recap this series, the Phillies, that was the big thing was consistency. There was one game where they pitched really well and scored 1 run, and then today, you know, they score 9 runs and they lose. It's all about consistency, and I feel like the Mets just being so far in their head at this point, you know, the Phillies are not going to beat the Mets in a playoff series because of just how I touched on how much real estate they own mentally. The greatest saying in sports is baseball's 90% mental, and it really shows out there because the Mets on paper, especially when you're missing 4 out of your 5 best starters, they didn't face Mad Max, they didn't face DeGrom, they didn't face Carrasco, they faced Chris Bassett for a game, and then guys who should be in the minor leagues, they just got their asses handed to them. Pardon my French, but that was terrible. That was a highlight series that could have turned the Phillies into, okay, the MLB is going to consider us true playoff contenders, and it didn't happen. So I think, from my perspective, Phillies on paper have a long way to go to win a World Series. I still believe that they'll make the playoffs, but there's no hope for winning a World Series this year, and it shows. Moving on from that to recap, this series, what do you think the real struggles are against the Mets? Because you look at the top teams, Jake, and they have a positive record against the Dodgers. They have a positive record against all the other teams above them in the standings, except for the Mets. What's the difference?
I think you said it perfectly. It's mental. I mean, you can look at a multitude of different interviews with players on extremely successful teams, and they'll tell you, there's just that one team, and it's usually in their division because, like we said before we got on, you face them 19 times a year. So, like, you're going to see them more often than any other team. It's just that one team in your division that has your number. I mean, how many years has we had it in the past where we were a much better team, but the Marlins were beating us, 15 out of the 19 games. And there is no reason for them to do that. We were the better team on paper, by record, everything. I think it's really just mental. And who knows? I mean, this is a Mets team that you would think that they have won 5 of the last 15 World Series with how their fans act and with how they're all over on social media. But the Mets are going to Met. Like, it happens every single time. Like,
I love that phrase. The Mets are going to Met.
They will. It's a guarantee. You can. It's like the sun will rise in the morning. I have no faith in them doing anything. And look, if we see them in the postseason, we're going to be fully healthy, knock on wood, and hopefully we'll get a lot of our bullpen pieces back. I know Knable's done for the year, going on the 60-day, was it yesterday? But we're going to get, hopefully, Sir Anthony back, and who knows, but it's just mental. They're a good team. They're better than us, but they're not 15-4 better than us. They mentally beat us in probably 5 of those games.
Yeah, and then DeGrom beat us in another 2. Tim, what do you think the issue is? Do you think Jake hit all the points home?
Absolutely, Jake definitely hit them, but I think he missed a big one. It's first pitch strikes. They're swinging out way too many. Kyle Schwarber, the first inning, he should not be swinging at first pitch strike.
No. He
needs to be taking – a leadoff hitter takes it to a 3-2 count, 2-2 count. Make them pitches.
Now, listen, I love that take, first pitch strikes. I absolutely love it. However, not from Kyle Schwarber. That's not the way he plays. That's not the way he's going to play. Do I think that in this
exactly
lineup,
don't put him leadoff then?
That's what I was about to say. Do I think that in this lineup he needs to be a leadoff hitter? Absolutely not. Bryson Stott hit 328 from the leadoff spot when he in his small stint there. You leave Bryson Stott there, you move Schwarber down a couple of spots. So from Kyle Schwarber, no, I don't think that's how you adjust his aggression. But from the rest of the team, absolutely 100%. I'm with you. First pitch strikes, first pitch swinging at garbage. And every team knows that he's doing it. Every team knows that we're swinging at first pitches. So they're throwing sliders in, sliders away, and we're swinging at them.
Listen, it can be a good thing at one point when they're on, but they're not on right now. They need to do whatever they can to get back to the level they can.
I don't want to say they're not on. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They're still pushing from June 1st. I don't want to say that they're off. However,
the last 10 games were against the Reds and Mets,
and they lose to the Mets, as we pointed out. Every other team in baseball right now, the Phillies are really pushing. They really are. So I don't want to say that like they're down and out. It just feels like a woe is me situation right now because they played the Mets, and then they only won 2 out of 3 against the Reds, and then they lost 3 out of 4 to the Mets. I don't want to sit here and act like we're like this woe is me team and we're like limping into the time that we get Bryce Harper back, because we're not. We're walking just fine. We just got beat by a team that was in our head.
Very well said. I'm glad for all those opinions. That being said, yeah, I kind of agree with everybody here. The approach from the lineup is super suspect at this point in time because, yes, Bill, as a team, they are not playing poorly if you take away this Mets series. However, from an individual hitting perspective, the consistency just isn't there. I've had this conversation before, I think, with Joey, actually, is when you see, guys struggling at the plate, you see Bryce Harper, he's going through his lows. What he does is he takes pitches, even pitches he thinks he can hit. He takes pitches. Why? Because there's a difference between just getting yourself out when you're hitting 150 over a period of 10 games and having productive at-bats. And these guys aren't doing either. When they're cold, they just swing at the first pitch. Hopefully that's the one that gets them back. No, they're not grinding. They're not working hard. And I pointed it out. The only one that has done that this year is JT Realmuto, because when the season started, he was terrible, but every out he made was productive. He was always hustling up the first baseline. I very specifically remember a game where he beat out a double play, and then the next batter, Bryce Harper hits a 3-1 ball into the gap, and he scores from first base, and the Phillies take the lead.
It's talk about that one.
It's the little stuff like that this team just doesn't do well. And that's why they're not consistent. That you don't see the sack flies. You don't see sack bunts because it just doesn't happen. But you don't see small ball being played. I mean, let's take a look at the Braves. Last night, they beat the Astros on a walk-off because Matt Olson intentionally moved the bat all of 3 inches in the zone to hit it to where the shortstop would be because he wasn't there. It was probably a 50-mile-an-hour hit that scored 2 runs.
Man,
why? Because he did it. Because he knew he was given, or he was taking what everybody was giving him, and this team just doesn't do that, and that's why you've seen such an explosive growth. And then you see a team like the Mets, who outside of their defense, Keith Hernandez plays pretty good small ball. They're going to get beat by teams like that every time. Now the Dodgers, I could see the Phillies playing better against because they're similar in structure. They're boom or bust. But
let me ask you this really quick. When it was now 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, I don't have the exact date in front of me, when Harper went down with a broken finger, did we think that they would be as competitive as they are without him? How many people did you see tweeting? I'll have to look back. I might have said it myself. I'm not 100%. Season's over. How many people went there right to, well, season's over? I mean, this team, it's great. It's like a pro and a con. Like, we are arguing that they didn't beat the Mets, that they should be in so much better position, where when it first happened, we all had a lot of people had that initial impression of, okay, well, season's over. They're going to win 10 of 50 in the stretch that he's out. And they're playing very competitive baseball, whether it's Rob Thompson, whether it's guys stepping up. I mean, you saw, July Bohm right after June Schwarber. That was phenomenal. Restarted August off insane. Then you had a stretch of Stott in there.
Castellanos was contributing.
Sticks is starting to heat up a little bit. I say he's back, but the power's not there yet. We'll get there with him. But it's still great that we can be complaining that they aren't winning more when we all thought early on they weren't going to win nearly anything without Harper in this lineup.
That's true. That's true.
And you know what? I'm not even going to give kudos to the rest of the lineup. The pitching staff and the bullpen this year has done outstanding. That being said, let's get into some individual performances. I know you're a big Castellanos guy. You remind us every day, almost every at-bat, actually. So, Bill, I'll go ahead and ask you first. What's your take on Castellanos' first 3 quarters of a year here in Philadelphia?
Listen, I mean, it's no secret that he started off relatively good, average-wise, not power, as you already pointed out. And then he went from, 303 or 304 to 240 over a stretch of 30 games. However, it's worth pointing out that in his last 23 games, he's hitting 342 with 2 home runs. The power isn't there like we expected Castellanos. He's not going to get the 30 home runs this season. However, I think we're seeing the approach at the plate more like way closer to what we thought we were getting when we signed him to the contract. The power is going to come back once he continues to swing a healthy bat. That at bat in the 9th inning, he saw Realmuto take a fastball up the middle at almost 1,000,000 miles an hour and take Diaz's head off. So what does he do? He gets in the box and he swings the first pitch fastball and bloops it into right field for a single. He's becoming more confident, and as such, the rest of it will follow. I know we say that all the time, like just get up there and make contact, the rest will follow. But Castellanos is proof of that at this point.
Tim, what do you take on Castellanos in his first 3 quarters of the season in pinstripes?